Welcome to webinar number 3 in our series of 6 recordings. The goal of this video is to provide you with insights into why Canada's energy sector is evolving and how that specifically impacts the oil and gas services sector and its workforce requirements. The information covered in this webinar can be found in the Energy, Career Transition and Employment resource on careertransitions.ca. This webinar was made possible through funding provided by the Alberta Government to Petro-LMI, a division of Energy Safety Canada. The resource has been developed to address the labour market inefficiencies created by the downturn in the oil and gas industry. It shares the results of our assessment of the transferability of skills, knowledge, and experience obtained in the oil and gas industry into employment in our evolving economy. Employers can use the resource to better understand how they can fill their hiring requirements with the skills and experience available in the pool of oil and gas talent. Job seekers and the employment and career practitioners that support them can use the resource to determine the best path to employment in another sector within our transitioning economy. I'd like to begin by providing background on the evolution taking place within Canada's oil and gas industry. The reason the energy industry is evolving is because it has to. Technology, and specifically horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing, has fundamentally changed the industry's ability to access oil and gas. So much so that, in 2014, an abundance of supply triggered the rapid decline in oil prices. This structural shift in the supply-demand balance remains today. For Canada's industry, the unlocking of previously inaccessible oil and gas reserves by the U.S. meant our primary customer no longer needs as much of our resources. While global demand for oil and gas is growing, those markets are in developing countries, such as Asia, and our infrastructure has been built to supply the U.S. Layered on top of the shifting supply-demand dynamics are some of the world's most robust stakeholder and Indigenous engagement processes, strict environmental regulations, and increasing expectations from investors to decarbonize. The combination of these factors is driving the need for Canada's industry to fundamentally change its business model in order to sustain. Leveraging the Internet of Things and technology solutions offered by Industry 4.0 is an opportunity for industry to increase its competitiveness from both a cost and carbon perspective. These shifts are not unique to the oil and gas industry. Agriculture, forestry, mining, chemical manufacturing are examples of other industries undergoing similar shifts. Engaging in new ways of doing business is driving new activities and expanding the energy industry's ecosystem and the skills, occupations, and service providers it requires. Activities are directly related to providing solutions to industry's key concerns of cost competitiveness and profitability. This includes increasing productivity while reducing costs, and this has an impact on the industry's workforce. Decarbonizing and reducing its environmental footprint, enhancing company performance by continuing to create value through environmental, social, and governance practices, expanding domestic and international markets to reduce reliance on the U.S. as a customer, and finally, finding ways to accelerate technological solutions wherever possible. As a result of the investment and activities described on the previous slide, Alberta and Canada's economy as a whole is realizing emerging sectors and breathing new life into some of our more traditional sectors. The abundance of affordable feedstock is helping to drive growth in Alberta's petrochemical industry and making the conversion of coal to natural gas power generation attractive. Utilizing digital and automation technologies as a pathway to enhanced safety, improving cost management, and decarbonization is increasing the demand for high-tech and clean-tech service providers and jobs. There also is strong support from the energy sector for renewable power generation. Many oil and gas companies are either involved in building renewable energy projects themselves or are entering into long-term contracts with renewable energy suppliers and enhancing economic feasibility of their projects. Canada's developing LNG export sector has the potential to be a game changer for demand for our natural gas resource, at the same time as having a very positive impact on global GHG emissions. Finally, investment in energy infrastructure by oil and gas companies drives growth in the heavy industrial construction and maintenance industry and generates jobs that draws workers from across Canada. Going forward, the evolving energy industry is expected to continue to rely heavily on contracted service providers to drive cost, environmental, and safety performance. Oil and gas service companies have always played a significant role in researching, developing, and implementing solutions that lead to a more efficient, environmentally responsible, and safe industry. While the sector is currently struggling, we believe that once the oil and gas industry achieves some stability, it will be the service companies that will be called upon to apply their existing expertise and skills to traditional activities, as well as emerging technologies and energy sources. We are starting to see this within the geothermal energy, carbon capture usage and storage, and methane emissions reduction spaces. The oil and gas services sector has always hired the greatest number of jobs for traditional oil and gas activities. We believe it will continue to do so in the expanded ecosystem required to support an evolving industry. CareersInOilAndGas.com offers information about careers in the oil and gas services sector, as well as the other upstream sectors across Canada's industry. The next two slides have been designed to demonstrate how traditional service lines of the oil and gas services sector will expand to support the evolving energy ecosystem. In some cases, oil and gas service expansion will be driven by increased upstream activity to meet the demands of LNG, petrochemical manufacturing, and coal to gas power conversion. In other cases, it means innovating and applying skills, expertise, and equipment to emerging sectors such as renewable energy, clean tech, and high tech for oil and gas. As mentioned earlier, the development of an LNG export sector has potential to be a game changer for Canada's natural gas industry and sustaining upstream jobs. Currently, projects are planned for both coasts and Quebec. As the LNG market is based on longer-term supply contracts, it requires continuous drilling and well development. BC Natural Gas will provide the majority of feedstock for West Coast projects, while Alberta will play a significant role in providing natural gas supply for export projects planned for Eastern Canada. According to PSAC's Canadian LNG Upstream Workforce Study, which is available on their website, the first phase of LNG Canada's project will drive between 3,600 and 4,200 jobs. This project is currently under construction and targeted to be in operation in 2025. Upstream activity and related jobs will ramp up in advance of the export facility being in operation. Many more upstream jobs will be generated if other planned LNG projects move forward. Development of Canada's LNG sector will also have a positive impact on investment and employment across the national manufacturing supply chain, as facility and pipeline projects and upstream activity require steel and other materials, pipe, equipment, and parts. Take a look at the resource for a more in-depth overview of Canada's emerging LNG sector and its workforce requirements. Many of the occupations employed by today's oil and gas services sector will be valuable to the emerging sectors that will be part of the evolving energy ecosystem. The resource includes an assessment of occupational transferability using 3 types: Transferability is considered direct if core qualifications, knowledge, and skills are essentially the same. Similarities related to nature of work and value proposition are also considered. Occupational transferability is considered a refocus if some skill and/or knowledge upgrading is required to qualify for a position in a new sector. Transferability is considered a reboot if significant effort and/or resources are required to successfully transition. In some instances, it may also be necessary to consider a relocation. The first webinar in our series provides more in-depth information about sector and occupational transferability methodologies used in the resource. Also, for job seekers and the career and employment practitioners that support them, a suggested starting point is webinar number 2, Starting with You, Exercises to Explore Career Transition, which not only assists with identifying sector transferability preferences, it also helps to prioritize what type of occupational transferability, direct, refocus, or reboot the career transitioner is best suited for. A summary of occupational transferability for the oil and gas services occupations can be found in the resource. As you see by the prevalence of green, which indicates direct transferability, the broader energy ecosystem will engage many of the same occupations as today's oil and gas services sector. Others will require a refocus, and a few require a more significant reboot. Further explanation regarding the life cycle, value chain, and activities related to these emerging sectors are found within the resource. Foot in the door or minimal foundational requirements for the occupations within these emerging sectors are also identified in the resource. This information offers both job seekers and employers insights into the occupational qualification, skill, and knowledge similarities and differences between oil and gas services and other sectors in the evolving energy ecosystem. Understanding the activities that are more likely to result in an industry generating employment is an important consideration for a job seeker looking to leverage their skills and transition into a different sector or leverage them for the evolving energy ecosystem. This is also important information for career or employment practitioners that are assisting them. Tracking activities that drive labor demand provides insights into the potential number and timing of job opportunities in a sector. The leading indicators of employment that we follow include investment announcements, government programs or other economic incentives for growth, changing regulations, and workforce demographics, as an aging workforce can generate job vacancies due to retirements. Timelines for demand can be found in the resource and relate to a reasonable line of sight from a job seeker's perspective. We'd like to offer some tips for monitoring the evolving energy ecosystem employment trends and jobs. Company spending announcements regarding capital projects are a key leading indicator of activity and employment for the oil and gas services sector and the emerging sectors associated with the evolving energy ecosystem. Industry associations that represent the upstream industry also provide regular forecasts of activity. Companies are also providing more corporate guidance on spending on activities such as accelerated technology implementation. They also provide insights into who are their supply chain and or contractors to be used. Government programs designed to incent economic activity are also insightful to monitor, as are changing regulations. On the right-hand side of this slide, we offer concrete examples of the resources we monitor for ongoing information of trends and leading indicators of employment in the energy ecosystem. Many of them go beyond what you might read in mainstream media, and you can sign up for their newsletters and get regular updates to your inbox. Worksica is a bit of a unique resource. It is Canadian, and beyond using it to search existing job postings, as you would with other job boards, it also provides an opportunity to look at consolidated information from a historical job postings perspective on the occupational technical and soft skills required by companies that are hiring for any specific occupation. Many of you will be familiar with a lot of these resources that we offer. Other than the labor market reports, they are unlikely to provide demand information and/or specific occupational requirements. Rather, you're going to need to use some critical thinking as you read these documents. Key questions you're going to want to ask yourself as you go through the information are, how does this information impact employment in this sector? How might it impact employment for my occupation? And is there anything I need to do to stay current and/or improve my career resiliency? Canada's oil and gas workforce was profoundly impacted by the downturn that began in 2014 and will continue to be impacted as the industry undergoes structural shifts. It is highly unlikely that oil and gas workers that have had their careers disrupted during this time will return to working in the industry in the same way. At the same time, we're starting to hear that employers involved in providing services to the evolving energy ecosystem are struggling to find the skills and qualifications they require. This slide offers some suggestions as to how job seekers can leverage their oil and gas experience and connect with employers that are looking for some of those skill sets. At the same time, we need employers that are looking to grow and provide services to the evolving energy ecosystem to better understand the value of the talent available in the pool of unemployed and underemployed oil and gas workers. Career and employment practitioners and trainers can also play a valuable role in bridging the gap and addressing the labor market inefficiencies currently faced by our economy. The more we can increase the understanding of how the energy industry and the economy as a whole is transitioning and what that means for mid-career transitioners and job seekers, the better. Effective labor market transition will require short, flexible training that provide opportunity for career transitioners to gain skills and knowledge that complements and allows them to leverage their area of expertise. We hope you found this webinar informative. Other recordings available include more in-depth information on our sector and occupational transferability methodologies, a walk through the Starting With You exercises to explore career transition. As well, we have webinars that focus specifically on career transferability between oil and gas and the clean tech, high tech, and heavy industrial construction and maintenance sectors. Our career transition work continues to evolve and expand, and we want to stay connected with you. Please follow us on our LinkedIn page, Talent Needs for the Evolving Energy Ecosystem. This is where we will offer information, workshops, and webinars helpful for effective transition of our labor market. Job seekers, we specifically ask you to take our survey and help us educate employers about Alberta's untapped talent by providing us details about the skills, occupations, and experience you offer. Finally, stay in touch with us via our personal LinkedIn pages, Pat Huffnagel-Smith and Cheryl Knight. We'd be happy to take questions and we'd love to hear your transition story. Thank you.